Our next speaker, and he didn't put this introduction, so I'll brag about him a little bit. He is a qualified speaker both in District 100 and in District 12, and now District 203 and 202, if I got those right. And a winner and a former Speakers Bureau chair from District 100. A winner of district evaluation and table topics competition, Founders District 207, 208, Division E, Toastmaster of the Year, past District 100 Director, qualified speaker, and former District 12 and 100 Founders District and District 100 Chief Judge, 42 years in Toastmasters. And the title of his speech, You're Being Watched. I'm going to be careful. You're Being Watched, David Flores. David, come on down.
Should work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker's Chair, Liberty Chair. Good evening, everybody. There is a phenomenon going on now that everybody's aware of, and you probably heard of the terms being said. Data centers. Quite a controversy going on now. The data centers now they're talking about are these large conglomerate areas. They take up acres of property where they put in these servers and they collect all the data that exists within our digital world. There's quite a bit of controversy. Some people aren't aware of what's going on, but a lot of the complaints you hear about the data centers is this constant whirling sounds of these air conditioning units that are on these large buildings running 24/7. So the local neighbors seem to complain about the idea of this constant noise. And some of the other ones are environmental. They talk about the fact that these data centers utilize millions and millions of gallons of water to keep these coolers running 24/7. They say that they use enough water that a more small city would use. Then the next controversy is they talk about the amount of electricity. These data centers utilize the same amount of electricity as a small town uses. So people are really upset about this whole idea of what these data centers are and what they're doing and the effects they have maybe on the environment, maybe on the local area as such. But myself, I'm not really concerned about that. My concern really is whose data and what data is it being collected. All that digital information that's being utilized these days is being stored in these data centers. It's gotten to the point there's actually a new industry. They call data brokers. So somebody's making money off all this data. And all this data is who? Think about it. If you join a store, the local store, you become a membership, and you go to the check stand and you buy all these particular products, and all that product is stored in the system, that's data on you, on what you buy in the store. Even if you don't have a membership in a store, just go into a store, purchasing something, using your credit card, all that data gets stored, that you were at that store, and these are all the items that you bought. And you might say, what's the harm in that? Well, as a data broker, you might say, I want to talk to the insurance company, the health insurance company, ask them if maybe they want to hear about one of their customers. I'm going to break down the data, provide it to them, and they're going to say, wow, this person's a pretty good person to have on our insurance, our health insurance. He eats healthy, he buys all the healthy foods, fruits and vegetables, he's great. But on the other hand, perhaps you're not. What if you're one of those kind of people that buys all the junk food, the candies, the ice cream, the beer, all the worst things you can eat for yourself, and the data broker finds that on you and supplies that to the insurance company, the health insurance company. They look at it and they go, wow, do we really want to insure this person? All behind the scenes that you're not aware of. That they could actually track you and sell that information to an insurance company, health insurance company, so they would know who would be the best prospects to insure, because they're in the business of risk. If you're too much of a risk to them, perhaps they may say, well, we can't reinsure you this year. You may have to look for a different insurance. We have to cancel you. What if you're sitting at home and you have your little monitor called Alexis or whatever it is, and you're talking to your wife, and you're saying, we know we had to get around to knocking down all that brush behind our house in case if there's a fire, it could burn down our house in the neighborhood. And this little Alexa thing's listening, even though you're not talking, but it's storing data. That data gets transferred and stored somewhere. The insurance company finds out about it. They look on the map and go, yeah, they're right. They have a lot of brush there. They're nothing doing anything about it. Well, I think perhaps we need to cancel that insurance policy so we don't have to run the risk of a fire starting there and burning down their house, and we have to pay. All that data being stored there will be used against you, whether you realize it or not, because someone is watching you and what all that data represents. Now, what I find more interesting is that we are all aware for years of the so-called red light camera. You're going down the road, you don't quite make the green light, the camera flashes, you get a ticket, you pay your ticket. Okay, you violated the law, you broke a rule, you got to pay for it. Or the speed cameras, they have speed cameras in different freeways and such. If you exceed a certain speed limit, the camera will flash, take your picture. That data gets stored. Now, you may not think much about it, but it happens once or twice. What if you get another one and the data gets stored, and a data broker finds it, contacts your insurance company and says, by the way, do you know that your client now has 3 speeding tickets? And they're going, well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. We can raise his rates now. And you're thinking, how did they find out? It's all stored in a data center somewhere. Now, beyond that, I want you to think of a scenario that you might be in. You get in your car and you decide to drive around, and your car, through what's called telemetrics, a little thing inside the car that tells everything that the car does, records everywhere you go, everywhere you stop, every time you make a right turn, a left turn, emergency stop, everything the automobile does, it's recorded and stored as data through the internet. If you try to dismantle it, you have to find the way to do it. Whenever you dismantle it and pull the fuse on it, it tells you that you can't do that. In fact, Hyundai is one of the ones who've gotten further along with it. You can't even find a way to disconnect their telemetrics. So they're keeping their car connected to the internet and storing all that information about you. So think about it. You're going down the freeway between Baker and Las Vegas with a flow of traffic at 85 miles an hour in a 65 and 70 mile an hour zone. It's being recorded. Your insurance company finds out about it. Hey, this guy's a constant speeder. You may not have gotten a ticket, but they can sit there and say, well, we've got a risk in our hand. This person speeds all over the town, or he doesn't stop. Or on top of that, the famous California roll stop. Come to a stop sign, everything's clear. Nothing in danger. So you just come to a slow crawl, then you take off again. Telemetrics records that. It sees the camera. The camera's all over these cars nowadays. Watches stop sign, sees whether you come to a complete stop or not, and then you keep on going. All recorded in a data center. Now, your phone, you have all kinds of information on your cell phone these days if you have a modern smartphone. When you step into your car, some people even connect that to their car. So now your car has all that data that's in your phone, all that data gets stored in the data center, and they have everything you've ever done and what you've done and all your contacts and all that information about you. They can record it and have an understanding who you not only who you know, who you deal with. So think about all that data that's being stored and kept there. Now, I'm going to paint a scenario for you that's recently happening. Just think about it in your own mind. You get in your car one morning and you drive off. And then you go a couple blocks and you kind of notice there's a vehicle behind you. As you're driving along, you know, in my mirror, I see that same vehicle. You've done nothing wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just going about your daily business. But this vehicle is tracking you the whole time, following you. Most people would finally sit there and stop and say, wait, excuse me. Go back to, why are you following me? Oh, we just are. We're just following you. We know that doesn't happen, or does it? Because there's a new phenomenon going now called flock cameras. Cities are installing cameras all around. They're not a red light camera. They're not a speeding camera. They're a constant surveillance camera that records every vehicle, every person, anybody walking past that camera all through the towns. So it records not only who's driving, who's walking, everything about your car, not just the license plate, the color of your car. You got a scratch on the side, both license plates, every detail is recorded on that vehicle, wherever you drive and where you go. Now, what business does the government have, or anybody who has that information, and we were more likely, we were more scared of as a government having it. Why would they need all that information? Why do they need all that data? And on top of that, why are these brokers selling this data? Now, whose data is it? If it's your data, why aren't you getting a piece of the pie? If they're going to sell your data, you should be getting paid for your data. But that's not going to happen. But the more serious thing I see nowadays is the fact that they're doing it. And it's happening, and people don't seem to understand it. They're more concerned about the data center than what's being stored in the data center. Nobody ever asked, by the way, what is in that center? What's being stored there? I'd like to know. I'm sure most everybody would like to know. Is your family history locked in there too? Is your medical records locked in there too? You may say, well, they can't get my medical records because of certain reasons. Well, we've never heard of a data breach, have we? Happens all the time. There's no guarantees somebody can't get into that information. And if there's data brokers who look for that as a way to make a living, they're going to find a way to get it too. But the worst part is the fact that they're constantly being surveyed. You're being surveyed on a regular basis. You may not know it, you may not realize it, but you are. That's the part that really should be concerning to most everybody, especially here in America where we live. We as a country had the freedom to travel and go where we want when it's nobody's business what we do or what we're not doing, as long as we are not breaking the law. But now we're being watched on a 24/7 basis. These different cameras are putting up to watch where everybody goes and goes. Oftentimes they say, well, it's for safety. Law enforcement uses it to track certain criminals if they feel there's a lead. Well, I agree. There may be some useful uses for it, but do we give up our freedoms for that? That's what they're asking us to do, is to give up the freedoms that we as Americans have enjoyed for 250 years, but it's slowly being eroded through technology. All this information is being stored and kept. Now our freedoms are slowly shrinking down because people are looking at what we're doing. They're watching us, whether you realize it or not. And that's the scary part. When you're being watched for no reason whatsoever, that's no longer a free country. That's no longer America. Our forefathers talked about this years ago when they first started this country. They said there was two things you got to understand. If you want security and freedom, well, you're not going to have neither one because you can't have both. So that's the reason why I feel that people should be asking more questions about not what's being built, but what's being stored in there. And if you want something to reference to, think about it. Do we want to be like certain countries? You know who does this more than anybody else? Any other country? China. China has cameras all over. They survey all their people, walking up and down the street, in and out of stores, who they associate with, who they grew up with. They've gone to the point where every city they have is now camerized. Now they're looking to put cameras in the small villages outside the big cities, so they can watch everyone 24/7. Do we want to be like China? Communist China is was the example of what this goes to and leads to. But if we allow it to continue without questioning it, without putting parameters on it, and without saying, we want to know exactly what's being stored, and we want to know when it can be taken away, if you can have it or not. I don't want you having my data. You have no business with it, even though you may sign certain documents and the fine print gives it away. But we need to be aware of that. We need to, as Americans, need to understand that all this technology, all these things that are being stored and kept on everybody and everything you do, everything you buy, everywhere you go, what time of the day you come and leave, all that information that's being stored should not be theirs to do whatever they feel like doing. And I see no reason why someone should be making money off of my personal life or what I do myself. If I'm not in American history, in American itself, if we are not breaking the law, the government and anyone else has no business in our business. So remember that. If you want to be like China, allow them to continue the way they're going. If you don't want to be like China, let's say right away we start to put a stop to it and start asking more questions and getting more answers from our public officials who are allowing these centers to be built in their jurisdictions without being questioned exactly what is it you're looking for and what is exactly you're getting in those data. So without that, freedoms are gone, and we'll be no different than other communist or socialist countries that exist, where you have no freedoms to do what you want to do without somebody looking over your shoulder and wondering what you're doing. Mr. Topics, Toastmaster.